you are going to be a nation that is going to constantly fix yourselves. You're constantly going to realize, oh, we're turning a little bit this way. We need to come back here. We're turning this way. We're going to come back here. And when you do that, when you keep correcting yourself and you keep balancing yourself, you keep centering yourself, the implications of this are so huge.
From Jerusalem to Mecca, a sacred passage, a defining moment for the Prophet, and a story that still holds powerful lessons for us today. And to help you go deeper, we've put together a companion workbook for this series with guided reflections to help you sit with each lesson long after the video ends. Download it now at bayina.com/From Jerusalem to Mecca.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. Allah describes the shock that the Israelites went through when the change of the Qibla was announced and now the direction of Muslim prayer was going to be the Kaaba. And right after that, Allah says, and that is how we made you, commonly translated, a middle nation. I like a more nuanced translation, maybe a nation characterized by balance, or a nation characterized by the center. What does that have to do with the change of the Qibla? It's as if Allah is saying there were people that were given the responsibility to carry His word, and what that word demanded is that they become a nation of balance. But they went out of balance. But now that they've lost their way, they've lost the essence of what this religion was, you're going back and you're going to restore the house built by Ibrahim alayhi salam, because Ibrahim alayhi salam represents the ultimate form of balance. And this religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam is going to inspire an entire nation that is going to be wasat. It's not ummatan mutawassitatan, a nation that is balanced. But wasatan is a masdar, it's an infinitive. What that does is, what I was trying to say in a more nuanced translation, is characterized by balance. Meaning, people see Muslims, people see this nation, and before they even hear anything about them, before they ask them any questions, before they wonder why they pray, or why are they dressed like that, or why they talk like that, they can just see these people and the way they are with their family, the way they conduct business, the way they carry themselves, just the way they've organized their society. And the immediate thing that comes to anybody's mind is, wow, these people are really balanced. They've really figured out how to balance work and family. They've figured out a balance between men and women. They've figured out a balance between the rights of elders and the rights of children. They've figured out the balance between, the intellectual and the spiritual. They've figured out the balance between caring for yourself and caring for others, the individual and the society. Every aspect of balance that humanity struggles with, right? People always fall into imbalance of one kind or the other. Families fall into imbalance. Individuals fall into imbalance. Some people get so imbalanced about money that everything else gets compromised. Some people get imbalanced about health or appearance, and everything else gets compromised. Some people get imbalanced towards their emotions, and everything else, their mind gets compromised, right? So human beings are constantly struggling with this idea of imbalance. And the great nations of the world that achieved amazing heights and amazing success had some level of balance, and when you find that they headed towards destruction is when they started losing their balance. They became excessively, for example, they became excessively materialistic, or they became excessively arrogant. Confidence is balanced, arrogance is imbalanced. Or they became excessively, drawn into their lust, etc., etc. Every time there's an imbalance, it creates destruction. Allah created the human body with balance. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. There are chemicals that are balanced inside our body, nutrients that are balanced inside our body, bones and muscles that are balanced inside our body. Allah created the universe with balance. And then He tells us in the Quran, the only thing out of balance, it seems to be human beings and jinn. They're the ones that shift in one way or the other way. They turn to the east or the west, right? And the two imbalances in Surah Al-Fatiha were the two nations, Al-Maghdub alayhim and Ad-Dallin. Right? There were two kinds of imbalances, and we're supposed to be right down the middle, as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. Which is interesting that right in the previous ayah, Yahdi man yasha'u ila Sirat al-Mustaqim, He guides whoever He wants to a straight path, and that is how we made you a middle nation. The middle nation is the one that walks a balanced path, a middle path, a straight path. So the imagery is actually converging here. And it's also really interesting that the previous ayah ended with a focus on the individual. Yahdi man yasha'u ila Sirat al-Mustaqim. But then there's an immediate switch to the collective. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. It's as if you're going to be a group of people that keep each other balanced. That, human beings are all, just like machinery, the human body, or anything else, it goes out of balance easily. A tree can start getting dry if you don't water it, right? You need to balance it, and you need to provide the nutrition again, right? You need to provide it water again. You need to treat the soil again. You are going to be a nation that is going to constantly fix yourselves. You're constantly going to realize, oh, we're turning a little bit this way. We need to come back here. We're turning this way. We're going to come back here. And when you do that, when you keep correcting yourself and you keep balancing yourself, you keep centering yourself, because to be in the center is to make sure that you're not swerving to the right or the left. It also means that if you are swerving to the right, you come back towards the left a little. And if you're swerving to the left, you come back to the right a little, right? The implications of this are so huge. There are people that are so focused on the literal. And there are other people that are like, oh, you're too literal about the religion. You're too focused on the technicalities of making wudu, or exactly how you pray, or where your hands are supposed to be. You've over-fiqhified Islam. You've made it overly technical. Other people will say, no, this is exactly what the sunnah is. This is exactly what the fuqaha said. You have to be exact down to the letter. So there are people that are focused so much on the letter, and there are other people that are focused on the spirit of it. Islam is supposed to make you closer to Allah. It's supposed to make you just. It's supposed to make you kind. It's supposed to make you thoughtful and grateful. So they're focused on the spirit of it, the philosophical, ideological transformation, the spiritual transformation that's supposed to happen. But what's the balance? The balance is that the external, the physical, is balanced with the internal. They both go hand in hand. The Jewish people, according to the Qur'an's criticism, what happened to them historically? They got focused on the technicalities. They got focused on the fiqh, and that became their obsession. And the Christian people got focused on the spirituality, and they lost all sense of the rituals and the guidelines and the halal and the haram of the religion. You were supposed to maintain balance. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. So the two ideas that are now being fused together, because Quran stitches concepts together. The previous ayah was telling us that there are fools who don't want to restore the balance that the Prophet ﷺ has been given. And now you are a nation that is marked by balance, which means if we go out of balance, that one way or the other we become some kind of fools. We fall into foolishness, and it's only the balanced individuals that aren't going to do that. And we have to become a nation of these marked by this kind of balance. This is why the way that Islam was supposed to spread in the world wasn't just by da'wah. It was simply by the way that the Muslims carry themselves. Look at nations that become successful. Nations that are able to give their citizens healthy middle class, for example. They're able to provide them good health care. They're able to provide them good housing, etc., etc. They're able to provide them modern amenities. Other nations look at that and say, we want that. Those nations don't go advertising themselves. They don't go say, build homes like we do, build roads like we do, build universities like we do. But because they have some level of balance, some level of success, other nations want to copy and replicate what they have. Imagine if we were creating a nation that's designed by Allah's guidelines. What kind of balance would it achieve? What kind of nation would it become? It would be the kind of nation that other nations, you wouldn't even have to go invite them. They would come begging you, hey, can you bring that balance to our society? Can we have some of that balance with you? And we've come so far from that because, again, we lost that balance. We lost the connection between what this religion really stands for and what its external form is. We disconnected those two things, and those two things became separate concerns. And so Allah is restoring that balance back in this ayah, and that's why the rest of this ayah is about shahada ala nas. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. Inshallah, in the next episode, I'll talk about that next part of the ayah, which is so crucial. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me in this series and allowing me to share some reflections on the ayat of the change of the Qibla with you. This was a glimpse of a few reflections, but I've actually done quite a deep dive into all of these ayat, and I'd really encourage you to study the full-blown study of these ayat along with me, which alhamdulillah, by Allah's grace, is available on the Revealed app now. You can just select whichever ayah and look at all of my notes and listen to the concise commentary also. So I'd really like to encourage you to become part of the Revealed app family. It's a remarkable project of anyone who is engaged with the study of the Quran or is curious about the Quran, reading any part of the Quran and just wants to know, I wonder what this ayah is talking about. I wonder if, Norman's done some work on this ayah or has some thoughts on it. You can just hold down the ayah and you'll get my notes, and you might even you also get my concise commentary on it. You can also post questions on there, which many of you are starting to post, mashallah. So I'd really encourage you to become part of this revolutionary study and this revolutionary resource that can really help develop a very good bond between you and the Quran, and also a really great way for me to gain insights on what kinds of things are on your mind as you post your questions. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you at the Revealed app.